In the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, Mexico is a veritable palimpsest of ancient civilizations, where the monumental architecture of grand pre-Columbian empires whispered tales of a complex past. This episode delves into 30 of the most incredible archaeological discoveries, from the towering pyramids of Teotihuacan to the intricate Maya murals of Bonampak. We will explore sacred cenotes yielding ritual offerings, decipher hieroglyphic texts from royal tombs, and examine the artifacts of powerful city-states that dominated Mesoamerica. Each site, a key piece of evidence in the archaeological record, reveals the sophisticated cultural developments from the Olmec colossal heads to the Aztec Templo Mayor that define Mexico's unparalleled heritage. Join us on a journey through time, uncovering the secrets of lost worlds. Mexico's most incredible archaeological discoveries that rewrote history. The ancient metropolis of Teotihuacan. The sheer, awe-inspiring scale of Teotihuacan, located in a valley northeast of modern-day Mexico City, marks it as one of the most formidable and enigmatic urban centers of the ancient world. A city that flourished for centuries and whose cultural and religious influence permeated every corner of Mesoamerica, yet whose origins and ultimate fate remain shrouded in a mystery that archaeologists have been painstakingly piecing together for generations. Established as a small village around the 2nd century before Common Era, it grew with explosive rapidity, likely through a deliberate conflation of smaller communities, to become by the 1st century Common Era the first true metropolis of the Americas, boasting a population that may have exceeded 150,000 inhabitants at its zenith, making it one of the largest cities on the planet during its time, and an undeniable superpower whose gravitational pull affected societies from the arid deserts of the northern Mexican plateau to the humid rainforests of the Maya lowlands. The city's layout, organized along a rigorous grid plan centered on the massive north-south artery known as the Avenue of the Dead, demonstrates an unprecedented level of central planning and social control, with its residential compounds revealing a population organized into distinct barrios or neighborhoods based on ethnic origin or craft specialization, with evidence of Oaxacan Zapotecs, Maya from the Gulf Coast, and other groups all living within the city's sphere, suggesting it was a multi-ethnic cosmopolis. The monumental architecture is nothing short of breathtaking, dominated by the Pyramid of the Sun, a colossal structure rising over 65 meters high, constructed over a natural cave system that was likely a sacred portal to the underworld, and its slightly smaller but more elegantly proportioned counterpart, the Pyramid of the Moon, which perfectly terminates the northern vista of the Avenue of the Dead, creating a powerful axis mundi connecting the earthly plane with the celestial realms. Further south, the Ciudadela complex houses the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, a 6-level pyramid adorned with dramatic alternating heads of the feathered serpent deity Quetzalcoatl and a goggle-eyed rain god Tlaloc, a facade that was later mysteriously covered by a larger platform, perhaps signaling a shift in political or religious power. The greatest enigma of Teotihuacan is the identity of its people. We do not know what language they spoke, what they called themselves, or the precise nature of their governance, though the absence of grandiose royal tombs or monuments to individual rulers suggests a more corporate, less autocratic form of rule than seen among the contemporary Maya. The city's collapse around the 7th or 8th century Common Era was as dramatic as its rise, with evidence of widespread conflagration and deliberate destruction focused on the major temples along the Avenue of the Dead. pointing to a violent internal uprising that consumed the city, after which its influence waned and its halls fell silent, leaving behind a legacy so potent that the later Aztecs, who discovered the ruins centuries later, named it Teotihuacan, the place where the gods were created, believing it to be the sacred site where the sun and moon were born at the dawn of the current era. A testament to the profound and enduring spiritual power this lost civilization projected across the millennia.
The Templo Mayor of the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan was a watershed moment in New World archaeology, an event that ripped away the colonial veneer of modern Mexico City to reveal the beating heart of the mighty Mexica Empire, a discovery that began not in a planned excavation, but by sheer accident in the year 1978 Common Era, when electrical workers, digging for a cable, struck an enormous carved stone disc depicting the dismembered body of the moon goddess Coyolxauhqui, a find that triggered one of the most intensive and revealing archaeological projects ever undertaken in the Americas. This temple was the epicenter of the Aztec universe, a symbolic representation of the sacred snake mountain of Coatepec, where, according to myth, the patron god Huitzilopochtli, the god of sun and war, was born fully armed and proceeded to defeat his sister Coyolxauhqui and his 400 brothers, the stars, thus establishing the daily cycle of the sun, conquering the moon and stars, a cosmic drama that was ritually reenacted on its summit with human sacrifices to nourish the gods and ensure the continuation of the world. The temple itself was a dual structure with twin staircases and sanctuaries dedicated to two primary deities, Huitzilopochtli on the south side, associated with war and the sun, and Tlaloc, the ancient god of rain and fertility on the north side, a pairing that reflected the fundamental pillars of the Aztec state: warfare for tribute and expansion, and agriculture for sustenance. What makes the Templo Mayor archaeologically unique is the fact that it was rebuilt 7 times, with each successive ruler encasing the previous temple within a larger, more magnificent shell, a practice that both honored the sacredness of the earlier structure and visibly demonstrated the growing power and wealth of the empire. These layers, like a giant onion, have allowed archaeologists to trace the architectural and ritual evolution of the Aztec state from a modest beginning in the 14th century Common Era to its imperial zenith in the early 16th century. The excavations have yielded an almost unimaginable treasure trove of offerings deposited within the construction fills and around the base of the temple, including thousands of objects ranging from exquisite greenstone masks, coral and amber, to conch shells from the Caribbean, jaguar skeletons, eagle skulls, and countless figurines, all offerings from across the empire, illustrating the vast reach of Aztec power and the complexity of their tributary system. The temple's destruction by the Spanish conquistadors under Hernán Cortés in the year 1521 Common Era was a deliberate act of ideological conquest, an attempt to extinguish the spiritual core of the Aztec world. And for centuries, its location was lost, built over by the colonial city, until its dramatic rediscovery, which has provided an unparalleled, direct window into the ritual life, cosmology, and terrifying power of the last great indigenous empire of Mexico, forever changing our understanding of this sophisticated and formidable civilization.
The Maya masterpiece of Palenque, nestled in the lush, mist-shrouded foothills of the Chiapas highlands, the Maya city of Palenque stands as a masterpiece of classical Maya artistry and intellectual achievement, a site whose relatively compact size is inversely proportional to its immense historical significance, thanks largely to the extraordinary hieroglyphic texts and exquisite artistry that have preserved the history of its ruling dynasty with a level of detail unmatched anywhere else in the Maya world.
reaching its apex during the 7th century Common Era under the long and prosperous reign of Kinish Janab Pakal, commonly known as Pakal the Great, who ruled for 68 years, from the year 615 Common Era to 683 Common Era. Palenque transformed from a secondary center into a powerful and influential city-state, its architects and sculptors creating some of the most elegant and finely detailed structures in ancient Mesoamerica, characterized by their delicate roof combs, intricate stucco bas-reliefs, and a harmonious integration with the surrounding jungle landscape. The crown jewel of Palenque is undoubtedly the Temple of the Inscriptions, a 9-stepped pyramid that served as the funerary monument for Pakal himself, and within which, after 4 years of careful excavation, the archaeologist Alberto Ruz Huillier discovered in the year 1952 Common Era a hidden stairway leading down to a crypt that contained one of the most spectacular archaeological finds of the 20th century, the massive, intricately carved sarcophagus lid depicting the ruler in a dynamic pose, falling down the world tree into the jaws of the underworld, a powerful image of death and rebirth that has been the subject of countless interpretations, some fanciful, but all acknowledging its profound cosmological significance. The tomb itself, untouched for over 1,000 years, contained Pakal's skeleton adorned with a mosaic jade death mask of breathtaking craftsmanship, along with a wealth of jade ornaments and accompanied by the skeletons of 5 or 6 sacrificial attendants, a burial fit for a god-king that forever cemented Pakal's legacy. Beyond this pyramid, the palace complex, with its unique 4-story tower likely used for astronomical observation, its labyrinthine corridors and its courtyards adorned with detailed narrative sculptures in hieroglyphic tablets, tells the story of Pakal's descendants, particularly his son, Kinish Khan Balam II, who built the magnificent Group of the Cross, a triad of temples whose inner sanctuaries contain elaborate panels detailing the city's founding mythology and the ruler's sacred right to rule. The wealth of inscriptions at Palenque has been fundamental to the decipherment of the Maya script, providing a near-continuous dynastic history that allows us to understand the political alliances, wars, and religious ceremonies that shaped the city's destiny, making Palenque not just a collection of beautiful ruins, but a living history book, a place where the voices of the ancient Maya still resonate powerfully from the stone. The Toltec Maya fusion of Chichen Itza. Rising from the flat limestone plain of the northern Yucatan Peninsula, Chichen Itza represents the spectacular culmination of the Maya late classic and early post-classic periods, a vast archaeological site that exhibits a fascinating and sometimes contentious blend of pure Maya architectural traditions with strong influences from central Mexico, specifically from the Toltec culture of Tula, creating a unique hybrid city that became the dominant political, economic, and religious center of the entire region for several centuries. The site's origins lie with the Maya, with settlement beginning as early as the 5th century Common Era. But it was during a period of florescence between the 9th and 12th centuries Common Era that it transformed into the magnificent city whose ruins we see today, a transformation that many scholars believe was triggered by the arrival of a group from central Mexico, perhaps led by a legendary figure known as Kukulkan, the Maya name for the feathered serpent deity Quetzalcoatl, who imposed a new, more militaristic and cosmopolitan order. The most iconic structure is El Castillo, the Temple of Kukulkan, a massive step pyramid that serves as a colossal astronomical calendar. Its 4 sides each have 91 steps, which combined with the shared platform at the top total 365, the number of days in the solar year. And during the spring and autumn equinoxes, the interplay of sunlight and shadow on the northwestern balustrade creates the undulating illusion of a giant serpent slithering down to earth,
a testament to the builders' profound understanding of mathematics and celestial cycles. The Great Ball Court, the largest and most impressive in Mesoamerica, at over 160 meters in length, with its towering parallel walls and intricately carved stone rings, showcases the importance of the ritual ball game, which was far more than a sport, being a reenactment of creation mythology. And the panels on its walls graphically depict the decapitation of players, a sacrifice that was considered a great honor. Other notable structures include the Temple of the Warriors, a vast complex surrounded by hundreds of columns depicting warriors, clearly echoing the architecture of Tula, and the sacred Cenote Sagrado, a massive natural sinkhole that served as a pilgrimage site where offerings of jade, gold, incense, and human beings were made to the rain god Chac, with dredging operations in the early 20th century confirming the grisly Spanish accounts of sacrificial practices. The precise nature of the relationship between Chichen Itza and Tula remains a subject of intense debate, whether it was a case of Toltec conquest, a peaceful migration, or simply the widespread adoption of a powerful international style. But the result was a city of unparalleled grandeur whose influence extended across the Yucatan, and whose eventual decline around the 13th century Common Era paved the way for the rise of other powerful city-states like Mayapan, though it never truly lost its status as a sacred center, even for the Maya, who continued to make pilgrimages to the site long after its political power had faded.
The Olmec colossal heads of San Lorenzo and La Venta. The Olmec civilization, which emerged in the swampy lowlands of the southern Gulf Coast of Mexico around 1500 before Common Era, is rightly celebrated as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, the first complex society in the region to develop hallmarks of civilization such as monumental architecture, a stratified social hierarchy, and a distinctive art style that would influence all subsequent cultures for millennia. And their most awe-inspiring and iconic creations are undoubtedly the colossal stone heads, 17 of which have been discovered to date, primarily at the major centers of San Lorenzo, Tenochtitlan, and La Venta. These monumental sculptures, carved from single blocks of volcanic basalt that were quarried from the Uxmal Mountains dozens of kilometers away and transported, likely on rafts along rivers and through treacherous swamps, represent an almost unimaginable feat of logistics and labor organization for a society without draft animals or the wheel. With the largest heads standing over 3 meters high and weighing between 20 and 40 tons, requiring the coordinated effort of hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals. The heads are remarkably individualized, each possessing unique facial features, expressions, and distinct headgear, which are now widely interpreted not as helmets for a brutal ball game, but as the personalized protective headdresses of powerful Olmec rulers, depicting actual historical figures who wielded the authority to command the resources and manpower necessary for their own glorification in such a permanent and imposing form. The site of San Lorenzo, the earliest major Olmec center, active from about 1400 to 1000 before Common Era, was where 10 of these heads were found, many of them deliberately mutilated and buried in long ceremonial lines, perhaps as part of a ritual desecration, accompanying the fall of a dynasty or a shift in power. La Venta, which succeeded San Lorenzo as the dominant Olmec center from around 900 to 400 before Common Era, yielded 4 colossal heads, and is also famous for its massive offerings, where vast quantities of serpentine blocks were laid in intricate patterns deep underground, and for its elaborate tombs and mosaic pavements, indicating a highly complex and sophisticated ritual life. The discovery of these heads, particularly through the pioneering work of archaeologists like Matthew Stirling in the 1930s and 1940s, forced a radical rethinking of Mesoamerican history, pushing back the timeline for complex society in the region and establishing the Olmec as the foundational culture from which later traits like pyramid building, the ball game, jade working, and the worship of feathered serpent and weird jaguar deities emerged, making the colossal heads not just impressive works of art, but the stone faces of the founders of Mesoamerican civilization itself. The Zapotec mountain kingdom of Monte Alban, perched majestically on an artificially leveled mountaintop 400 meters above the floor of the Oaxaca Valley. The city of Monte Alban stands as a testament to the political and architectural genius of the Zapotec people, who, over the course of more than 1,000 years, transformed a barren hilltop into the imposing capital of one of Mesoamerica's most enduring and influential states. A city that commanded a federation of surrounding communities and engaged in long-distance trade and diplomacy with the great powers of its day, from Teotihuacan to the Maya lowlands. Founded around the year 500 before Common Era, in a process of synoecism that brought together populations from the three main arms of the valley, the city grew rapidly. Its main plaza, a vast, grand esplanade flanked by pyramidal platforms, temples, and a ball court, being laid out with a visionary sense of urban planning that would characterize its entire history. One of the earliest and most enigmatic features is the Gallery of the Dancers, Danzantes, a collection of over 300 stone slabs carved with figures of naked, contorted men, often with closed eyes and showing signs of genital mutilation. Originally thought to be dancers, they are now almost universally interpreted as representations of slain, tortured prisoners of war, likely from competing pre-Zapotec chiefdoms, making this one of the earliest examples of public monuments glorifying military conquest and political dominance in Mesoamerica. The city reached its peak during the Classic period between the years 200 and 600 Common Era, when it developed a distinctive gray pottery style, a hieroglyphic writing system that is one of the earliest in the Americas, and a complex calendar, evidence of a highly sophisticated intellectual elite. Building J, an arrowhead-shaped structure with a peculiar orientation, is covered with over 40 carved slabs depicting what are thought to be conquered places, some identified by place names in a script that may represent a precursor to the later Mixtec pictorial codices. After a long and gradual decline starting around the year 800 Common Era, Monte Alban was largely abandoned by the Zapotecs, but it was later reoccupied by the Mixtecs, who used the old tombs for burying their own elite, most famously in Tomb 7, discovered in the year 1932 Common Era by Alfonso Caso, which yielded an unparalleled treasure of gold, silver, jade, and turquoise artifacts that represent the pinnacle of Mixtec metallurgy and lapidary work, making the site a palimpsest of two great Oaxacan civilizations and one of the most historically rich archaeological complexes in all of Mexico.
The architectural perfection of Uxmal. The ancient Maya city of Uxmal, situated in the Puuk hills of the Yucatan Peninsula, is universally acclaimed as the pinnacle of the Puuk architectural style, a regional variation that reached its zenith during the terminal Classic period between the years 770 and 1000 Common Era, characterized by an extraordinary refinement of proportion, a mastery of veneer masonry, and an explosion of intricate stone mosaics that adorned the upper facades of its buildings, creating a visual tapestry of geometric patterns and symbolic motifs that is unparalleled in the Maya world. Unlike many other major Maya centers that grew organically over centuries, Uxmal appears to have been largely built according to a cohesive master plan during a relatively short period of explosive growth and prosperity, likely driven by its control over fertile lands and its savvy political and economic maneuverings in a region undergoing the upheaval of the classic Maya collapse further south. The city's most iconic structure is the Pyramid of the Magician, or Soothsayer, a unique building with unusually rounded corners and a steep, dramatic profile that, according to later Maya legend, was built by a dwarf king with supernatural powers in a single night. Archaeologically, it reveals 5 successive construction phases, each temple entombed within the next, a common practice that here resulted in its distinctive oval footprint. The true masterpiece of Uxmal, however, is the Nunnery Quadrangle, a vast 4-sided complex of palaces arranged around a central plaza,
each building featuring a lower plain wall supporting an upper facade that is a riot of intricate stonework, including lattice patterns, representations of the Maya grasshopper god, and, most prominently, the long, hook-nosed masks of the rain god Chalk, whose favor was critically important in this water-scarce region. Adjacent to the quadrangle is the Governor's Palace, a long, low building stretching over 100 meters, which is often cited as the most beautiful and perfectly proportioned structure in pre-Columbian America. Its entire upper facade, decorated with a complex mosaic of 20,000 individually cut stones, forming a giant abstract representation of the throne of the city's ruler, set against a background of latticework and repeated chalk masks, symbolically binding the ruler's authority to the divine power of rain and fertility. The site's sudden decline and abandonment around the year 1000 Common Era remains imperfectly understood, but it left behind an architectural legacy of breathtaking beauty and sophistication, a serene and harmonious city that represents the final glorious flowering of Maya classicism in the northern Yucatan before the rise of the more militaristic and Toltec-influenced style seen at Chichen Itza.
The legendary Toltec capital of Tula, in the state of Hidalgo, is widely identified as the legendary capital of the Toltec civilization, a people revered by the later Aztecs as the epitome of civilization, the master artists and wise rulers from whom they claimed descent. And while the historical reality may be more complex than the myth, the ruins of Tula provide a fascinating glimpse into a powerful early post-classic state that exerted a profound influence across Mesoamerica. Flourishing between the years 900 and 1150 Common Era, following the collapse of the great central Mexican cities like Teotihuacan, Tula emerged as a major urban center, with a population estimated at around 60,000, its architecture and art displaying a distinctly martial character, emphasizing themes of warrior orders and human sacrifice that would become central to the later Aztec Empire. The most famous features of the site are the four massive Atlantean figures, towering basalt pillars carved in the form of stern, armed warriors standing over 4 meters tall, which once supported the roof of the temple atop Pyramid B. These figures, adorned with butterfly-shaped pectorals, feather headdresses, and atlas, spear throwers, have become the iconic image of the Toltec warrior ideal. The temple platform is also decorated with friezes depicting processions of jaguars and coyotes, eagles devouring human hearts, and skull racks to Tzompantli, all motifs that would be enthusiastically adopted by the Aztecs. A key architectural feature is the Cuatipantli, or Wall of Serpents, adorned with carved rattlesnakes devouring skeletal figures, and the presence of Uxmal sculptures, reclining figures holding offering bowls, further solidifies the cultural connection between Tula and Chichen Itza in the Yucatan, where nearly identical artistic and architectural elements appear, suggesting a period of intense contact, perhaps even a migration or conquest that spread the Toltec cultural package far to the south. The city met a violent end around the year 1170 Common Era, with evidence of widespread burning and destruction, likely at the hands of invading northern Chichimeque groups, an event that marked the end of Toltec hegemony, but ensured their legendary status, as the Aztecs would look back on Tula as a golden age of artistic and moral perfection, a legacy cemented by the imposing, silent warriors who still stand guard over the ruins of their once great capital. The geological wonder of the Cave of the Crystals. Discovered deep within the Naica mine in the Chihuahuan Desert in the year 2000 Common Era, the Cave of the Crystals, Cueva de los Cristales, is not an archaeological site in the traditional sense of human-made structures, but rather a geological discovery of such staggering proportions and beauty that it has fundamentally altered our understanding of extreme environments and their potential for preserving life, representing a natural wonder that exists on a scale and timeline almost incomprehensible to the human mind. The cave, accessed roughly 300 meters below the surface, is a single chamber housing the largest natural crystals ever found on Earth. Gigantic, translucent beams of selenite gypsum, some reaching lengths of over 12 meters and diameters of over a meter, weighing up to 55 tons, creating a surreal landscape that resembles the fortress of a superhero more than a natural geological formation. These magnificent crystals formed over the course of hundreds of thousands of years under a very specific and stable set of conditions. The cavity was filled with mineral-rich water that was heated by magma chambers below and maintained at a constant, scorching temperature of around 58 degrees Celsius, 136 degrees Fahrenheit. A temperature at which the mineral anhydrite, which is dissolved in the water, converts into gypsum, the crystalline form of which is selenite. And over immense periods of time, this process allowed the crystals to grow to their monstrous sizes. The environment is so hostile to humans that unprotected visits are limited to only a few minutes due to the risk of heat stroke and the condensation of moisture in the lungs, requiring explorers to wear specialized ice-cooled suits. The scientific significance of the cave extends beyond its geological marvel. Researchers have discovered ancient, dormant microbes trapped inside fluid inclusions within the crystals. Microorganisms that may have been isolated for tens of thousands, if not millions of years, and the study of these extremophiles is crucial for astrobiologists as it expands the understanding of the conditions under which life can exist, providing a model for how life might survive in similarly harsh environments on other planets or moons in our solar system. The cave, therefore, while devoid of pottery or pyramids, is a monument to the immense power and patience of geological forces, and a unique laboratory for exploring the very limits of life itself. A hidden chamber of wonders that reminds us that the greatest discoveries are not always about our own past, but about the fundamental processes of the planet we inhabit. The Mixtec treasure of Tomb 7 at Monte Alban in the year 1932 Common Era by the renowned Mexican archaeologist Alfonso Caso is arguably the single most spectacular find in the history of Mexican archaeology, a moment of sheer astonishment when the sealed entrance was breached to reveal not the expected Zapotec burial of the Classic period, but an intact, lavish offering from the later Mixtec civilization, a treasure trove of worked gold, silver, jade, turquoise, and rock crystal that surpassed all previous finds in its richness and artistry, providing an unparalleled window into the world of the Mixtecs, who were celebrated throughout Mesoamerica as the finest craftsmen of the post-classic era. The tomb itself was originally carved by the Zapotecs during the city's heyday, but centuries after Monte Alban's decline, around the 14th century Common Era, the Mixtecs, who had moved into the Oaxaca Valley, rediscovered the ancient tomb and carefully reused it for the burial of one of their own high-ranking individuals, likely a prince or a great lord, along with the remains of several accompanying sacrificial attendants. The contents of the tomb were meticulously recorded by Caso's team and numbered in the hundreds, including an astonishing array of personal ornaments, a gold pectoral in the form of a two-headed serpent, exquisite gold earrings and nose ornaments, rings, beads, and bells, all demonstrating advanced techniques of lost wax casting, filigree, and repoussé. There were also masterpieces of lapidary work, such as a rock crystal cup, a skull covered with a turquoise mosaic, and alabaster vessels. But perhaps the most famous artifact is a gold breastplate depicting the god Totec, our lord the flayed one, associated with agricultural renewal and wearing the skin of a sacrificial victim. The significance of Tomb 7 cannot be overstated. Because it was found completely undisturbed by looters, it provided archaeologists with a perfectly documented context for understanding Mixtec funerary practices, social hierarchy, and artistic achievement, just a century or two before the Spanish conquest. The treasure revealed the extent of Mixtec trade networks, with materials sourced from across Mesoamerica. And their artistic style, characterized by intricate, codex-like designs rendered in precious materials, confirmed their reputation as the master craftsmen of the ancient world, making Tomb 7 not merely a collection of beautiful objects, but a direct link to the worldview and unparalleled skill of one of Mexico's most artistically gifted civilizations.
The Maya murals of Bonampak. The relatively modest Maya site of Bonampak, hidden deep within the Lacandan jungle of Chiapas, would likely have remained an obscure footnote in archaeological texts were it not for the existence of a single three-room structure known as Structure 1, the Temple of the Murals, which houses the most complete, vivid, and narratively powerful wall paintings to have survived from the ancient Maya world. A cinematic sequence of images that forever shattered the romanticized notion of the Maya as a peaceful society of stargazing priests and revealed the central role of brutal warfare, ritual bloodletting, and political theater in their civilization. The murals were brought to the outside world's attention in the year 791 Common Era by the American photographer Giles Healy, who was guided to the site by Lacandan Maya inhabitants, and they date precisely, according to accompanying hieroglyphic texts, to the year 791 Common Era, during the reign of King Chanmuan II. And they depict a connected narrative spread across the three rooms, likely commemorating the events surrounding the presentation and legitimization of the king's infant heir. Room 1 sets the stage with an elaborate and colorful court scene, showing nobles in magnificent feathered headdresses and jade jewelry conversing, while musicians play trumpets and drums, creating an atmosphere of opulent preparation for a major event. The narrative reaches its violent climax in Room 2, which depicts a frenetic and chaotic battle in the jungle, with warriors in jaguar skin armor grappling with opponents, taking prisoners, and a fallen victim lying lifeless on the temple steps, the scene rendered with a stunning attention to detail that captures the grim reality of Maya warfare, from the expressions of the combatants to the blood dripping from their wounds. Room 3 presents the gruesome aftermath, showing the victorious Chanmuan and his courtiers dressed in magnificent white robes, performing a ritual of bloodletting by piercing their own tongues, while below them, naked captives await their fate, one of whom is shown having his fingers torn off prior to their eventual sacrifice on the temple steps. The preservation of these paintings, with their vibrant blues, reds, and yellows, is remarkable, and their discovery was revolutionary, providing irrefutable evidence that Maya society was as militaristic, politically complex, and ritually violent as any other ancient civilization, forcing a complete revision of scholarly understanding and offering an intimate, unflinching, and breathtakingly artistic portrait of a Maya royal court in all its splendor and brutality.
The walled city of Tulum. Perched on a dramatic cliff overlooking the turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea, Tulum is one of the most visually stunning archaeological sites in the world, a late Maya settlement that functioned as a major fortified port city and trading center during the post-classic period, from approximately the year 1200 Common Era until the arrival of the Spanish in the early 16th century, representing a fascinating adaptation of Maya culture to a coastal environment and a period of increased militarism and long-distance maritime trade. Unlike the great classic period inland cities, Tulum was a compact walled settlement with its core civic ceremonial center protected by a massive stone wall on three sides, up to 5 meters thick in places, and the sheer sea cliffs providing a natural defense on the fourth, a configuration that speaks to a time of conflict and the need for protection in the fragmented political landscape of the late Maya world. The city's most prominent structure, El Castillo, strategically positioned at the cliff's edge, served multiple functions. It was a temple, a watchtower, and crucially, a lighthouse for maritime navigation. Sailors could align their canoes with a break in the offshore barrier reef, by sighting through a specific doorway in the structure, guiding them safely into the city's harbor, a testament to the sophisticated understanding of the coastal environment. Other significant buildings include the Temple of the Frescoes, which contains well-preserved murals depicting Maya deities in a style that shows influences from the Mixteca Puebla region of central Mexico, indicating Tulum's participation in a vast post-classic international trade network that extended along the Gulf Coast and around the Yucatan Peninsula, dealing in commodities like salt, honey, cotton cloth, feathers, and cacao. The fact that Tulum was still actively inhabited at the time of the first Spanish contact is recorded in early accounts, and it was one of the first Maya cities seen by Europeans, who were reportedly impressed by its size and brightness, as its buildings were likely painted a brilliant white and red, visible from far out at sea. Tulum's enduring appeal lies in this unique combination of natural beauty, well-preserved architecture, and its role as a window into the final centuries of an independent Maya civilization, a resilient coastal enclave that thrived through trade and adaptation long after the great inland cities of the Classic period had been swallowed by the jungle.
The Maya superpower of Calakmul. Deep within the dense, biodiverse rainforest of the Petén Basin in the state of Campeche lies the immense ancient Maya city of Calakmul, a rediscovered superpower that for centuries waged an epic struggle for dominance against its great rival, Tikal, in a geopolitical conflict that shaped the course of the classic Maya period. For much of its history, Calakmul was the capital of the powerful Ka'anul, or Snake Kingdom, a dynastic state that built a vast network of alliances through warfare and strategic marriages, effectively creating an empire that challenged Tikal's hegemony for over a century. The scale of the city is staggering, covering an area of over 70 square kilometers, with an estimated population of 50,000 people at its peak, and its central core is dominated by Structure 2, a massive pyramid that is one of the largest Maya structures ever built, rising over 45 meters high and containing numerous tombs of the Snake Dynasty rulers. The remote location of Calakmul, far from modern roads, meant that it was not seriously investigated until the late 20th century. But since then, archaeological work has been revolutionary, uncovering over 120 carved stela, the largest number of any Maya site, that have allowed epigraphers to reconstruct the history of its kings and their long-running rivalry with Tikal. Perhaps an even more significant discovery was made in the year 2004 Common Era, when archaeologists found a perfectly preserved polychrome mural inside a small earlier structure, not depicting gods or kings, but scenes of everyday life. Market vendors selling salt, tobacco, and maize gruel from pots, people preparing food, and servants engaging in domestic chores. A rare and invaluable glimpse into the economic and social lives of the common Maya, the backbone of the city's power. The city's sophisticated water management system, consisting of massive reservoirs that could hold over 200 million liters of water, was key to its survival in a region with a long dry season, enabling it to sustain a large population and exert its influence. The rediscovery of Calakmul has fundamentally rewritten Maya history, transforming our understanding from a landscape of independent city-states to one of grand-scale geopolitics, with two superpowers, the Snake Kingdom of Calakmul and the Mutul Kingdom of Tikal, vying for control of the Maya lowlands in a struggle that ultimately contributed to the instability that led to the classic Maya collapse.
The city of niches, El Tajín. Located in the humid lowlands of northern Veracruz, the archaeological site of El Tajín was the great capital city and ceremonial center of the classic Veracruz culture, a civilization that flourished from approximately the year 600 Common Era until its sudden collapse around the year 1200 Common Era, and it is renowned for its unique and spectacular architecture, most notably the prolific use of decorative niches that give its pyramids a distinctive and intricate appearance. The name El Tajín Altaheen is believed to mean thunder or lightning bolt in the Toltec language, and it was associated with the cult of the rain god, a fitting name for a city built in a region of frequent storms. The undisputed masterpiece of the site is the Pyramid of the Niches, a six-tiered structure originally crowned by a temple, whose facades are punctuated by 365 deeply recessed square niches, a number that has been led to its interpretation as a giant calendar in stone, symbolizing the solar year and reflecting a deep concern with time and cosmological order. The architectural complexity of Altaheen is further evidenced by its 17 ball courts, more than any other known Mesoamerican city, underscoring the paramount importance of the ritual ball game in the city's religious and political life. The South Ball Court is particularly famous for its 6 carved panels that vividly depict the ritual sacrifice of ball players, showing a skeletal death god decapitating a player with 7 serpents and a flowering plant emerging from the victim's neck, symbolizing the belief that sacrifice was necessary for the renewal of life and fertility. The city's art style, characterized by scroll-like motifs and scenes of ritual, is distinct from contemporary Maya or Central Mexican styles, and the site also features innovative architectural elements such as the use of cornices and corbelled vaults. Altaheen's end was violent, with evidence of widespread burning and destruction, possibly at the hands of Chichimeca invaders from the north, but its legacy endured. The site was still a place of pilgrimage for the Totonac people when the Spanish arrived, and today the voladores, or flyers ceremony, a ritual in which participants spin from a tall pole to honor the gods of fertility, is performed nearby, a living cultural tradition that may have its roots in the ancient ceremonies of Altaheen, connecting the present to the past in a continuous thread of belief and practice.
The sacred cenotes of the Yucatan. The Yucatan Peninsula, a vast limestone plain devoid of surface rivers, is underlain by the world's most extensive network of underwater cave systems, which have collapsed in countless places to form natural sinkholes known as cenotes, which for the ancient Maya were not merely vital sources of fresh water, but sacred portals to the underworld, or Xibalba, realms inhabited by powerful gods and ancestors. And these water-filled cavities have become, in recent years, one of the most exciting frontiers of archaeological discovery, yielding finds that range from the earliest human remains in the Americas to the ritual offerings of the Maya elite. The most famous of these is the sacred cenote at Chichen Itza, a great natural well that was a major pilgrimage site where offerings were made to the rain god Chak, and dredging operations conducted in the early 20th century recovered a staggering array of artifacts from its depths, including objects of gold, jade, copper, shell, wood, textile, and the skeletons of over 200 individuals, confirming Spanish colonial accounts of sacrificial practices. Beyond this well-known site, underwater archaeologists, equipped with scuba gear and advanced technology, are now exploring previously inaccessible cenotes and cave systems, making groundbreaking discoveries. In the Hoyo Negro cenote, the complete, perfectly preserved skeleton of Naya, a teenage girl who lived nearly 13,000 years ago, was found, providing crucial genetic and morphological data about the first peoples to enter the Americas. In other submerged caves, like the Cave of the Ancestors, preserved footprints, hearths, and artifacts dating back over 10,000 years have been found, offering a snapshot of the lives of the first inhabitants of the peninsula when sea levels were lower and the caves were dry. For the Maya period, cenotes are revealing not just sacrificial offerings, but also evidence of ritual pilgrimages deep into cave systems, where ceremonies were performed in terrifyingly narrow, dark, and water-filled passages to communicate with the gods of the underworld. The exploration of these cenotes is therefore rewriting chapters of human history in the region, from the initial peopling of the continent to the complex spiritual beliefs of the Maya, proving that some of the most significant archaeological sites in Mexico are not towering pyramids, but water-filled holes in the ground that lead to a hidden, submerged world of unparalleled historical importance.
The Great Pyramid of Cholula, What appears to the modern visitor as a large tree-covered hill crowned by the beautiful colonial-era church of Our Lady of the Remedies, perched high above the city of Cholula, Puebla, is in reality the largest pyramid ever constructed by humankind, a monumental structure known as the Great Pyramid of Cholula, or Tlachihualtepet, man-made mountain, whose immense volume surpasses that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. This colossal edifice was not the product of a single building campaign, but the result of a continuous process of construction, enlargement, and renewal over more than 1,000 years, beginning as a small altar around the 2nd century before Common Era and growing through at least 6 major construction phases until it reached its final form around the 8th or 9th century Common Era, ultimately covering nearly 45 acres and rising 55 meters high. Each successive culture that occupied Cholula, likely including the Olmec Xicalanga and later the Toltec Chichimeca, added a new layer to the pyramid, effectively encasing the previous structure within a larger shell, a practice that both honored the sacredness of the existing temple and visibly demonstrated the power and piety of the new rulers. The interior of this massive complex is a labyrinthine network of tunnels, over 8 kilometers in length, excavated by archaeologists in the 20th century, which allow visitors to walk through the different construction stages and see earlier facades, altars, and murals, such as the famous Drinking Figures mural depicting a lively festival scene. The site's sacred continuity is one of its most remarkable aspects. After the Spanish conquest, in a deliberate act of symbolic domination, the conquistadors built the church directly on top of the pyramid, using the pre-existing sacred geography to assert the triumph of Christianity over the native religions. This layering of history, an ancient Mesoamerican temple supporting a Spanish colonial church, makes the Great Pyramid of Cholula a powerful symbol of Mexico's complex cultural synthesis, a literal and metaphorical foundation upon which the modern identity of the nation was built, and a testament to the enduring spiritual significance of this place for countless generations. The fortified city of Cantona. Situated on a rugged, inhospitable volcanic Malpais landscape in the state of Puebla, near the border with Veracruz, the ancient city of Cantona is one of the most densely urbanized and heavily fortified sites from pre-Hispanic Mexico, a sprawling metropolis that flourished during the Epiclassic period, approximately 600 to 900 Common Era, and whose unique, austere architecture reflects a society organized for defense and economic production on an industrial scale. The city's most striking feature is its incredible density of construction. It covers an area of over 12 square kilometers and contains an estimated 3,000 patios, 500 pyramids, 24 ball courts, and a complex labyrinthine network of streets, alleys, and walls, all built from the local, rough volcanic stone without the use of mortar. Unlike the ornate, sculptural styles of contemporary sites like Uxmal or Cacaxtla, Cantona's architecture is stark and functional, prioritizing defensibility with narrow, easily controlled passageways and multi-level walls that would have made the city a formidable fortress. This emphasis on defense suggests a time of significant conflict, likely in the power vacuum following the collapse of Teotihuacan. Cantona's wealth and importance were derived from its control of highly valuable obsidian sources. The city was a major industrial center for the production and trade of obsidian tools, with workshops producing prismatic blades on a massive scale for export throughout Mesoamerica. The site also boasts an unusually high number of ball courts, indicating the ritual ball game was a central part of its social and religious life. Despite its obvious power, Cantona shows little evidence of the elaborate art, writing, or sculptural traditions common to other Mesoamerican cultures, suggesting a society that valued practical, military, and economic prowess above artistic expression. The city was abandoned around the year 1050 Common Era for reasons that remain unclear, but its stark, imposing ruins, with their silent streets and towering, unadorned pyramids, offer a powerful and contrasting vision of an ancient Mexican city, one built not for aesthetic beauty, but for survival, control, and industry in a turbulent age.
The murals of Cacaxtla, the archaeological site of Cacaxtla in the state of Tlaxcala, is home to some of the most spectacular, vibrant, and best-preserved murals from the ancient Americas, a breathtaking artistic legacy that survived for over a millennium protected within the collapsed walls of its buildings, offering a vivid and unparalleled narrative of warfare, ritual, and cultural exchange during the turbulent Epiclassic period. Following the collapse of the great central Mexican empires like Teotihuacan around the year 650 Common Era, Cacaxtla emerged as a powerful fortified citadel inhabited by the Olmeca Xicalanga people, and its strategic hilltop location allowed it to control important trade routes through the Puebla-Tlaxcala Valley. The murals, which date from this period of fluorescence between 650 and 900 Common Era, are remarkable not only for their state of preservation, but for their unique artistic style, which represents a fascinating fusion of Maya and Central Mexican artistic traditions, suggesting a population with diverse origins or extensive contact with distant cultures. The most famous mural is the massive Battle Mural, a graphic and dynamic depiction of a violent conflict between two distinct groups of warriors. One group, clearly victorious, is dressed in jaguar skins and armed with spears and shields, while the defeated group is adorned with bird feathers. The scene is rendered with astonishing detail, showing wounded and dying figures, streams of blood, and elaborate costumes, leaving no doubt about the brutal reality of warfare. Another masterpiece, located in the structure known as the Red Temple, is the stunning portrayal of a humanoid figure that is part man, part bird, and part jaguar, often called the Birdman, standing atop a serpent and surrounded by fertile vegetation, which is interpreted as a powerful deity or a deified ancestor associated with trade and fertility. The technical skill of the artists is evident in the use of vibrant mineral pigments, deep reds, brilliant blues, blacks, and whites, and the sophisticated application of these paints to create a sense of depth and movement in the figures. The discovery of these murals in the 1970s was a sensation, as they provided a direct, colorful window into the ideology, costume, and ritual life of a previously little-known culture that thrived in the shadow of larger empires, and their mixed stylistic elements continued to fuel debates about the extensive networks of interaction and migration that characterized Mesoamerica in the aftermath of Teotihuacan's fall, making Cacaxtla a unique and invaluable gallery of ancient American art. The rock art of the Sierra de San Francisco. In the remote, arid canyons of the Sierra de San Francisco, within the El Vizcaino Biosphere Reserve in Baja California Sur, lies one of the most impressive and best-preserved collections of rock art in the world, a monumental gallery of paintings created by a now-vanished hunter-gatherer people that ranks as a supreme artistic achievement of prehistoric America. These paintings, known as the Great Murals, were created by indigenous groups, possibly the ancestors of the Cochimí people, and date from a period possibly as early as 1100 before Common Era up until the arrival of the Spanish in the 18th century Common Era, with the peak of artistic production estimated between 100 before Common Era and 1300 Common Era. The murals are painted on the walls and ceilings of rock shelters and caves, often in locations that are difficult to access, and they are characterized by their monumental scale, their sophisticated use of color, and their striking and dynamic representations of the human form
and the local fauna. The figures, which can be larger than life size, are depicted in a variety of colors, primarily red, black, and white, derived from mineral pigments mixed with a binder, and they show humans engaged in hunting, dancing, and warfare, often wearing elaborate headdresses, as well as a stunning array of animals such as deer, bighorn sheep, rabbits, birds, and marine life like fish and whales, reflecting the rich biodiversity of the peninsula. The most famous site is the Cueva Pintada, or Painted Cave, a massive rock shelter covered with hundreds of overlapping figures, creating a complex and vibrant tapestry of ancient life. The purpose of these paintings is believed to be deeply spiritual, likely related to shamanic rituals, hunting magic, and cosmology, serving as a conduit between the human and spirit worlds. The remoteness of the area has been the key to their preservation, and they were brought to wider attention by the Jesuit missionary José Mariano Rotea in the 18th century. Today, a visit to these sites requires a guided trek on muleback, adding to the sense of discovering a lost world. The rock art of the Sierra de San Francisco is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and stands as a breathtaking testament to the intellectual and artistic sophistication of hunter-gatherer societies, proving that monumental art was not the exclusive domain of agricultural civilizations.
The Purépecha Yacatas of Tzintzuntzan. On the shores of Lake Pátzcuaro in Michoacán stand the unique and imposing ruins of Tzintzuntzan, the ceremonial capital of the powerful Purépecha Tarascan Empire, a civilization that was the primary rival of the Aztec Empire, and which maintained its independence through military prowess and strategic alliances until the Spanish arrival. The most distinctive features of the site are the 5 large semicircular structures known as yacatas, which are unlike any other pyramids in Mesoamerica, consisting of a rectangular base fused with a circular superstructure, creating a unique T-shaped platform that supported temples made of perishable materials. The name Tzintzuntzan means place of the hummingbirds in the Purépecha language, and the city was the administrative and religious heart of an empire that controlled much of western Mexico. The yacatas are arranged in a row on a massive artificial platform that was leveled from the top of a hill, overlooking the lake and demonstrating the engineering skill of the Purépecha. These structures were not tombs, but the bases for temples dedicated to the principal Purépecha deities, most importantly Curicaweri, the god of fire, who was the central figure in their state religion. The construction technique involved facing a core of rubble and earth with carefully fitted volcanic stones without the use of mortar, a method that has withstood centuries of earthquakes. The Purépecha were renowned for their metalworking, particularly their work in copper, which they used for tools, weapons, and ornaments, giving them a technological advantage over their neighbors. The discovery and excavation of Tzintzuntzan have been crucial for understanding this often overlooked empire, which organized its state differently from the Aztecs, with a more decentralized system of government, but a highly effective military machine that successfully repelled repeated Aztec invasions. The site, with its silent, enigmatic yacatas, offers a powerful reminder of the cultural diversity of pre-Hispanic Mexico and the fact that the Aztec Empire was not the only major power in the land at the time of the conquest.
The pre-classic Maya city of Izapa. Located in the fertile Soconusco region of Chiapas, near the border with Guatemala, the ancient city of Izapa is a site of profound importance as a crucial cultural bridge between the earlier Olmec civilization and the later classic Maya, flourishing during the late pre-classic period from approximately 600 before Common Era to 100 Common Era. This long occupation makes Izapa a key site for understanding the development of the complex mythological themes, artistic styles, and religious concepts that would become central to Maya civilization. The city is vast, covering over 2 square miles, and includes numerous temple mounds, plazas, and over 250 stone monuments, including stelae, upright carved stones, and altars. It is this wealth of sculpture for which Izapa is most famous. The carved scenes on these monuments are intricate and complex, depicting a rich narrative world of gods, heroes, and mythical events that scholars believe represent early versions of the stories later recorded in the Maya epic, the Popol Vuh. Scenes showing hero twins, a world tree, and a bird deity perched on a pole have been interpreted as prototypes for the Maya myths of the maize god in the hero twins who journeyed to the underworld. The artistic style is distinct, more narrative and less hierarchical than Olmec art, but clearly building upon Olmec foundations. Izapa's strategic location on a trade route between the highlands and the Pacific coast made it a prosperous center, and its rulers likely derived their power from controlling the flow of valuable commodities like cacao and obsidian. The discovery and study of Izapa have been instrumental in tracing the evolution of Mesoamerican ideology, demonstrating that the complex cosmology and iconology of the classic Maya did not emerge fully formed, but were the result of centuries of development during the pre-classic period, with Izapa serving as a major incubator for these ideas, making it one of the most significant yet less heralded sites for understanding the deep roots of Maya culture.
The cliffside dwellings of the Correntacauces. In the rugged canyon-riddled landscape of northwestern Chihuahua, nestled in the sheer cliffs of the Sierra Madre Occidental, are the remarkable archaeological remains known as Correntacauces, 40 houses, a series of cliff dwellings built by the Casas Grandes culture, a group related to the larger and more famous site of Paquimé. These dwellings, dating from between the 13th and 15th century Common Era, represent a sophisticated adaptation to a challenging environment and provide a fascinating glimpse into the lives of the peoples of the vast and culturally distinct region of Oasis America, which encompass parts of the southwestern United States and northern Mexico. The most accessible and studied complex is the Cueva de la Ventana, Cave of the Window, a large natural rock shelter within which a multi-story village of adobe and stone rooms was constructed, complete with storage bins and communal areas. The dwellings were built into the cliff face for several reasons: defense from potential attackers, protection from the elements, and temperature regulation, as the caves remained cool in the summer and warm in the winter. The inhabitants were agriculturalists, growing maize, beans, and squash in the canyon bottom, and they were also skilled traders connected to the extensive network that Paquimé controlled, which brought turquoise from the north and shells from the Pacific coast. The discovery of these sites in the modern era revealed not just the architecture, but also well-preserved organic materials like corn cobs, textiles, and baskets, which rarely survive in more open environments. The cliff dwellings of Correntacauces are a northern counterpart to the more famous sites of the American Southwest like Mesa Verde, and their study helps to complete the picture of the diverse ways in which ancient people settled and thrived in the arid lands of North America, demonstrating a shared architectural tradition of cliff dwellings across a wide geographic area and highlighting the cultural richness of northern Mexico's pre-Hispanic past.
The mysterious stone spheres of the Cerro de Pedras Bola. In the isolated pine-forested mountains of the Sierra de Ameca in Jalisco, a mysterious and captivating archaeological enigma lies scattered across the landscape. Hundreds of near-perfectly spherical stone balls, known as the Pedras Bola, ball stones, which range in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter. These spheres, carved from volcanic rock, are found both isolated and in groups, and their origin and purpose have puzzled scientists and visitors since their discovery. They are not the product of a known ancient civilization's sculptural tradition, like the more famous stone spheres of Costa Rica, but are instead believed to be a natural geological phenomenon, though their formation process is exceptionally rare.
The leading geological theory posits that they formed millions of years ago when volcanic ash, rich in particular minerals, solidified around a central nucleus deep within the Earth. Over eons, a process of concretion, similar to how pearls form, created the spherical shapes, and subsequent erosion exposed them on the surface. However, their remarkable perfection and their occurrence in specific areas have led to speculation about possible human involvement, perhaps in their arrangement or in finishing the spheres to enhance their roundness. To date, no archaeological evidence, such as tools or associated settlements, has been found to conclusively prove that they were shaped or placed by humans. The site remains a place of wonder and speculation, attracting geologists and curious travelers alike. While they may not be a discovery in the traditional archaeological sense, the Pedras Bola represent a different kind of find, one that highlights the mysterious and often inexplicable wonders of the natural world that have inspired awe and curiosity for centuries, reminding us that the landscape of Mexico itself holds secrets that predate human history and continue to challenge our understanding.
The Paquimé World Heritage Site, in the arid, vast desert of northern Chihuahua, the archaeological site of Paquimé, also known as Casas Grandes, represents one of the most significant and culturally distinct pre-Hispanic cities in northern Mexico, a remarkable example of the Oasis America tradition that flourished between the 13th and 15th centuries Common Era. What makes Paquimé so extraordinary is its unique blend of architectural styles and cultural influences, drawing from Puebloan cultures of the southwestern United States to the north and more typical Mesoamerican traditions from the south. The city is characterized by its extensive, multi-storied residential complexes built of packed earth, adobe, with walls that curve gently and T-shaped doorways, features reminiscent of the Anasazi and Mogollon sites like Chaco Canyon. These apartment-like structures could house thousands of people and included sophisticated features like indoor drainage systems and heating. Yet, alongside these northern elements, Paquimé also exhibits unmistakably Mesoamerican traits, such as ball courts for playing the ritual game, complex platform mounds, and evidence of the cult of the plumed serpent, Quetzalcoatl. The city's wealth was built on its role as a major trading hub, controlling the flow of exotic goods like macaw feathers and copper bells from Mesoamerica to the north and turquoise from the north to the south. Archaeologists have uncovered extensive evidence of macaw breeding in specialized pens, indicating the birds were raised for their highly prized feathers. The discovery of Paquimé revealed a sophisticated, socially stratified society that mastered the challenges of desert life through extensive irrigation agriculture and complex water control systems. Its sudden abandonment around 1450 Common Era, possibly due to drought, disease, or invasion, left a magnificent ruined city that continues to puzzle and intrigue scholars as a unique cultural crossroads where the worlds of the Pueblo peoples and Mesoamerica met and merged.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.